Hello, and welcome back to the Black Girl Iowa podcast. I'm your host, Emily, and thank you so much for joining me today, as today's episode will be the last one of the year 2024. It is New Year's Eve, and I know as you are probably listening to this, you're probably excited that the holiday season has come and went, excited for the new year or 365 days of new possibilities, and just ready for the next thing and to close out this chapter that was 2024. Me, I have really taken the last 3 weeks to really think about my year and everything that has happened. And so in today's episode, I'm going to be doing some reflection. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the things that I went through over the year, some goals that I was able to achieve, and some things that I want to do in 2025. 2024 for me, I would say, is probably one of the most difficult years of my life. That's a nice way of putting it. 2024 beat my ass. Plain and simple. It was a hard year for a lot of things. And you know what's so crazy is that when you think about time, right? It is so easy for us to think about time in the sense of what we didn't accomplish instead of actually taking a moment to be like, wait, what are all the things that I actually did over the year, and how am I moving forward? What am I doing next? All of those great things, right? So that's kind of what I decided to do for this episode. And I want to start this episode with some things that I'm actually super proud of. And I'll kind of talk about those things moving forward as I kind of move through everything. I honestly think my proudest accomplishment of 2024 is finishing grad school. On Saturday, December 14th, I successfully graduated with a 3.7 GPA from Drake University with my Master of Arts in Communication, where the emphasis was communication leadership and public advocacy. That was a 2-year program that I did. And for me to go to grad school, even, and I feel like I have talked about this on my podcast prior, I applied to grad school on a whim, as it was the summer of 2022. I had left my ex-husband and was getting ready for a divorce. And I said, what am I going to do with my time? Oh, I know. I want to go to grad school. I had already found the program a few years prior. My ex-husband actually didn't really want me to go to grad school. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Why not? I applied, I got in, and then I went on this journey of self-discovery and really figuring out how I can lead through my communication style and just the different things that I'm capable of, which was really exciting. Okay, first of all, there was an ice storm that the night. So, getting to graduation was an event because the roads were incredibly slick that morning, but I made it. Um, and it was a fantastic day. And I had some friends and family come and celebrate with me afterwards in the evening. I had a nice little party planned, and it was just a fantastic day. And it was funny because the next day, one of my friends texted me, and she said, "So Emily, what was the first thing you did after graduation and your party, and what did you do?" And I was like, "Girl, I took a 3-hour nap." I was so exhausted. But regardless, that was just such a great moment for me. I'm currently waiting to get the actual document, and then I will be getting it framed and hung up in my apartment, along with my bachelor's degree and my high school diploma. And, is a PhD or another master's on the way? I don't know. But all I know is that it feels really good to have that degree completed and the things that I'm going to be doing in my career in the future, which is leading me into the next really proud accomplishment for me. So I was working at Iowa State University for the last 3 years, and I actually decided to take a leap of faith, and I left the university. So I have started now my teaching career with Iowa Jobs for America, for America's Graduates, aka IJAG, and I'll be working at Des Moines Area Community College at their Ankeny campus and teaching 3 sections of career and technical education starting in February. So I left Iowa State in November. I started with IJAG in December, and I'm actually now on my leg of training for DMAC. And like I said, I will start teaching. What's crazy is, so my parents are educators, right? I had my dad on earlier in the year, and Oh my God. My dad actually has been working for Des Moines Public Schools for like almost 50 years now. And he is going to be officially retiring in May. I say that because he actually already retired in May of 2016, but has been working literally ever since. But I'm like super excited, y'all, because this is something that I have been told that like I'm good at. I'm good at like articulating things to people and showing people how to do things. So for me to kind of take a leap of faith at the age of 38 and go into another career path, it's kind of like a full circle moment for me. And I have really enjoyed training so far. I'll be learning more about the content that I'm going to be teaching, and then also just to see where this is actually going to take me. As you know, I will soon be known as Professor Johnson. So that'll be really cool. A few other things about the year that I'm excited about. Obviously, this podcast. I have said this multiple times that this podcast is really, it's a passion project for me. The fact that one of my other accomplishments for the year was presenting at the Iowa State Conference on Race and Ethnicity. I did that and it was fantastic and I loved every minute of it. And then to take that and say, okay, well, how am I going to leverage a voice? How am I going to share stories and create and protect space for Black women? And the fact that I've done that through this podcast is just so amazing. And I am so thankful and grateful that I have been able to create this space. And I cannot wait to tell you guys a little bit later in the show about some things that I do have coming up for the podcast and things that I'm like super excited about. Other things that I'm super excited that I did this year, I celebrated my 38th birthday and I decided to have a birthday dinner with friends, which is going to be an annual tradition for me now because I deserve to be celebrated, which is something that I learned to accept in therapy this year. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing is celebrating myself every year. I'm already planning my 39th birthday. I have my dress ready to go and I'm just really excited for what's going to be up next. A couple other things that I did was I read 3 books this year. The goal was 12, but I read 3 and I am very proud of those 3 books that I read. Let's go ahead actually and just run through those books real quick and I will tell you guys what I read this year. So I read Trick Shot by Kayla Gross, Legend Born by Tracy Dion, and Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. Those are the 3 books I was able to get through. And hopefully I could get back to, me reading my, reading 50, 60, 100 books in a year. Now that I'm not in grad school, I have a little bit more downtime. I do have a full list of books actually that I do plan on reading for the Black Girl Iowa Reading Challenge, which is on social media. But basically, I picked like 25 books that I do want to read as a way to not only getting back into my joy and my love and my passion for reading, but also to further educate myself on all things DEI related. I have some really awesome titles on there. So please be sure to go check that out. As for other leisurely things, I did finish 15 diamond paintings this year because you guys all know I'm a crafty girl. I'll be talking about that more as the podcast continues in the new year. But yes, I have done 15, not created, I've completed 15 diamond art paintings. I have a bunch of them actually hung up in my office space, which I'm currently working on getting all set up. And that diamond art total, that was 387 hours of my year was spent diamond painting. Now, I do know some of that probably could have spent towards me reading books, but what I've come to find is that me zoning out on a diamond painting while watching a documentary or a TV show is just how I like to do things. That was like a really good way for me to kind of relax and do some wind down time and all of that other stuff. So that was really awesome. Speaking of documentaries and TV, I watched over 60 documentaries this year. I have a list of them that I will be putting up on my blog. I am very shocked that I watched that much TV this year. But again, it was like downtime, right? Like just to read so much and to do so much homework. Watching some really awesome documentaries I thought was really great. And I'll have all that in the show notes, as well as a link to my blog for all of that. Other things that I did was I celebrated my 20th high school reunion. So that was over the summer. I got to see all my friends. I had a lot of friends come back and we got to celebrate 20 years as alumni of the one and only Roosevelt High School here in Des Moines, Iowa. And it was such a great weekend, y'all. That was just a good time. I looked absolutely adorable in this like, purple and black wrap dress that I had. Oh my God, it looks so cute. But again, it was really awesome to see people that I haven't seen in years, learn about their families, where they're living now, things that they've accomplished. So going to my reunion was very inspiring for me. And I'm really, really happy that I went. I also finished a journaling prompt book. I talked about this one a little bit on the podcast earlier this year. It was a write and rec journal that I absolutely adored doing. It was like over 200 prompts of past, present, and future Emili. And I highly recommend you guys go get it. It was just a fantastic book. It's only $5 at Five Below, and you can also get it online. The next thing is related to graduation. Me and my dog took graduation pictures the day after graduation. That was a lot of fun. You know, George is my best friend, and he was with me every step of the way as I completed grad school. So that was really awesome for us to do. My cousin went with us, and we took some really great pictures. He took some solos, I took some solos, and then of course we came together. I'm going to be getting a massive one of those and putting it up in my apartment. So that's really exciting. And all of my friends got 5x7 photos of me and George for Christmas. That was fantastic. But two more really, really proud things that I'm proud of this year. I saw Justin Timberlake in concert, you guys. That was another reason why I took a little bit of a hiatus. Last Friday, December 20th, me and my friend Ashley drove down to Kansas City. And me and my friend Ashley and my friend Erica, we all went and saw Justin Timberlake. Now, that for me was the third time that I have seen him in concert. And Justin Timberlake for me is like my generational, like outside of Beyonce, I'm going to go see Beyonce as soon as she has another tour. I don't care. I'm going to that tour. But regardless, Justin Timberlake is just someone that like the music that he has come out with over the years, it has always resonated with me. He is amazing performing. He has great stage presence and he's just so talented. So being able to go see him was fantastic, and to go with my best friends was great. He did mirrors at the end of the show and I cried because my year was really hard. And the person that I feel like I should have been really relying on this year is the person that stares me back in the face every time I look in a mirror, which is me. That was just such a good show, y'all. But I did have to pay $75 for a long sleeve concert tee. I have a little bit of an attitude about it, but I do it all over again. So there's that. And then the last thing that I am really proud of this year is leaving an abusive relationship. I talked about this in my Black Girl Speaks episode earlier this year. I believe that one dropped in September. You know, that relationship, I feel like because of everything that happened on that fateful day in May, that it was taken away from me. And so when the opportunity came for me to attempt to have that relationship back, I jumped on it and I quickly realized that it wasn't good for me. And I think that's kind of the thing about being in an abusive relationship, is that you are really looking at the relationship as a whole through rose-colored glasses. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I am incredibly happy and thankful that I decided to end it when I did. Again, I wish him the best, and I really hope that he gets the help that he needs. But I think the best thing to come out of me leaving that relationship is the fact that now I can really focus on myself and figure out what it is that I want out of my life, what I want my next relationship to look like, which will not be anytime soon, but also just to really understand what it is that I'm worth and the things that I shouldn't have to put up in a relationship. So that was a big part of my year. And that was also one of the reasons why my year was so difficult. And I'm really happy that that part of my life is over and that I'm on to other things and things that are better for me. So yeah. As I kind of look at like those reflections though, like when I was writing this episode, it was kind of wild because I was just like, oh my God, like I really haven't done anything this year. And I think I had the podcast, graduating from Drake, and changing careers as like my big moments from the year. But then I just started writing it all out and it was so much more. I'm pretty sure there are other moments of the year that I'm not even thinking about that I definitely should also add, but those are the ones that definitely stuck to me. Kind of like what I already said, the number one thing that I'm going to continue to do over the rest of my life really is to continue to celebrate myself and celebrate my birthday, because again, I deserve to be celebrated. And I would also say that if throwing yourself a birthday party is something that you've always thought about, but you thought that's something that only vain people do, you damn right. I feel like sometimes in life we wait for other people to give us our flowers when we just need to give them to ourselves. That's one of the other things that I will continue to do for the year. And like I said, I already have my next party planned. So I'm very excited to get those invitations out and do all those things. Moving on, let's talk about the podcast. But y'all, this episode right here is episode 28 of the podcast. 28 episodes. I launched this podcast on Saturday, June 1st. I have released 28 episodes. I have had 5 solo episodes. I have had 23 episodes where I have had amazing guests on the show. And this podcast is really something that I have said it before and I said it again. I've always wanted to do something like this. I just haven't, though. For whatever reason, I just haven't done it. And now that I have, I kind of can't imagine doing anything else right now. But well, obviously, like besides work, but this podcast has most definitely become a part of me. This podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and also on my YouTube channel. This podcast is on Instagram, where I have over 200 followers. It is also on TikTok, where thankfully I have over 10,000 followers on TikTok, y'all. So if you're following the podcast, thank you so much for following it, for listening, for engaging with the content. Know for a fact that I will be doing a much better job at promoting myself. And that's really a way of me celebrating myself and the work that I'm putting in. And I have so many ideas for future episodes. But before we get into that, I do want to give flowers to every person that has been a part of the podcast over the last 28 episodes. So I want to do a shout out to Courtney Perry, my dad, Larry Johnson, author Glow Rose, Brianne Ward of Forward Consulting, Donnie's, and Dion, my homegirls that were on my sister's episode, Erica Bailey, Dr. Kia Levy, Mackenzie Carey, who is Miss Iowa USA 2024, and Abigail Batu Terako, Miss Iowa America 2024, April Finley, Brandy Miller, Shanice Whitney, Tatum Claiborne, Dr. Wanaki Carr, Ryan Morrison and Madison Ray, Councilwoman Renee Hardman, Dr. Jasmine Ross, Clemente Love. All of you are people that I have met over the years. Some of you I have known since I was 2. Some of you I have known since I was 35. It doesn't matter. But, or even birth when think about my dad. But just thank you so much for believing in me and giving me the opportunity to ask questions and share your stories. That was definitely one of the highlights of my year, was being able to put on that journalism hat and ask you all of the things. And it really fed my soul and my spirit. And I just really appreciate your time, because we only get so much of it, right? I mean, people always say there's 24 hours in the day and it's the same amount of time as Beyonce gets. But the fact that you guys took that time to be on my podcast and be a part of this journey with me is something that I will always be so grateful for. So thank you so much to all of you for being a part of this podcast this last year. When I think about things that I have learned from doing this podcast, y'all, oh my God, I've learned so much. First thing that I learned is that batch editing is incredibly important. So I think one of the great things about the podcast the first like 2 months is that like all of my episodes are already done. And then like right now, I have episodes like in the chamber, but like I haven't edited them or anything like that yet. So I will be doing that over the next few weeks. But aside from that, like, that more technical thing, again, the biggest thing that I learned from doing this podcast, y'all, is that stories matter. Our stories, Black women, Black people, our stories truly matter. And I will say that in my 38 years of being on this earth, there have been so many times where I've just felt like I was invisible, and that like, you know, nothing about me was special or mattered or anything like that. And now that I am older and I've been able to have conversations with so many different people about their own experiences, I'm really starting to realize that I was never really alone. There was always somebody that was there and that had a same experience or a similar thought process that I did. But the only difference is that, where I live, where I'm from, the home that I love has always had a prioritization of whiteness over everything else. And what I'm starting to learn is that just because that's how society prioritizes stories, that doesn't necessarily mean that's how I have to do it, which is another reason why this podcast is so important. I feel like, honestly, this podcast, it is a true testament to my younger self. You know, earlier this year, my therapist suggested that I write a letter to like Emily at the age of 8, at the age of 16, and Emily at the age of like 21, right? Because I was three completely different people at all those stages in my life. And I think the number one thing that I would definitely tell 8-year-old Emily, because I vividly remember having those feelings at that young age, is that I am worthy and capable of doing amazing things. And in sharing those stories, those women, those people that I have had on this podcast already knew those things within themselves. And it also took the communities around them to build them up so that they can recognize those things also. Which leads me into my next point about this podcast and just how grateful I am of building connection, sisterhood, and community through this podcast. The people that have been on the show have just dropped some amazing knowledge and for everyone to think about, whether it be about moving out of the country and living abroad full time, or whether it be about motherhood, or whether it be about, the relationship between siblings that are on two different coasts. And I just really think that it's so important to learn how people move through life and really gain perspective and inspiration from those stories. So that's definitely something that I will be doing moving forward on this podcast. I'm very excited for those things. And I actually have some interviews that are actually going to be coming up on the podcast. So some people that I will be talking with are Deidre DeGier, Dr. Simone Wright Hammer, Latoya Lewis, Audrey Kennis, and Dr. Destiny Woodruss, as well as Miss Betty Andrews. So I have so many people that are going to be coming up on the podcast. Also, some hot take episodes on things that I want to talk about in relation to, I don't know, our government and where our current two-party political system is heading. Talking about books, talking about TV, talking about movies. Also, just talking about what it is like for Black women to heal and to really forge a journey through self-love, which is something that I'm going to be working on over the next year personally. So I'm very excited to share all of those things with you guys, as well as the many other guests and people that I want to bring to the show. So all of that is definitely coming. So I talked about what I learned through the podcast. But what did I learn about myself this year? I learned a lot. And one of the things that was said to me over this last year, and it was said to me as a way to hurt me. But the thing that was said was, a life without purpose has no meaning. Now, this was said to me multiple times when I was in that relationship. And I remember, I'm a millennial, right? I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression when I was like 24 years old. And whenever I start to go down that depression spiral, that's the thing that keeps repeating in my head. And the more I think about that, the more I started to really realize that that comment wasn't for me. My life has purpose. I think the person that said that to me, it was said to me as a way to project that maybe there are certain parts of their life that don't have purpose, and therefore they are thinking that their life has no meaning. But it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with them. With that being said, taking a moment to write down the things that I was able to accomplish this year, and then also just thinking about where I currently am in my life, what I want to do, and also thinking about this podcast, my life has purpose. And the number one thing I'm not going to do moving forward for however many more years I have left is I am no longer ever going to let somebody tell me that my life has no purpose or meaning. I'm the only person that lives this life. So therefore, the audacity of someone telling me otherwise is bold, and it will never happen again. I think that's been my number one lesson that I have learned, is that my purpose has meaning, my life has purpose, it has meaning, and that I am loved, and that I, again, am capable of amazing things. The other thing about this year that I learned is that setting 10 goals is too much. So at the beginning of the year, I set 10 goals. I accomplished like 2 of them, and that's okay. Those 2 that I accomplished was I threw myself a 38th birthday party and I finished grad school. Those are the 2 things out of that list of 10, and I'm going to take those. But instead of doing like a full, I'm going to make all of these goals and whatever else, I honestly think that for me, I just need 5 things, 5 tasks that are attainable that I can go ahead and do this year. And those are going to be my goals. If you are a person that likes to set a lot of goals, by all means do it. But for me, I'm only setting 5 goals this year. I learned, listen, Emily, you're not doing that big list. No more, right? So here are the 5 things that I want to do this year. Okay. Number 1, I want to read 12 books because I want to really get back into my love of reading. I absolutely love reading. And I have my Black Girl Iowa reading challenge that I will be sure to link for you guys. But also, a few weeks ago when I was working at my part-time job, I ran into the husband of my 10th grade English teacher, Miss Anderson. And I love Mrs. Anderson because of her. She had us read 2 of my favorite books of all time. And that is The Color Purple by Alice Walker and The Color of Water by James McBride. I have read those books probably 10 times since the 10th grade. But what I have absolutely loved about reading those books is that they told a story that a lot of people probably didn't think about. But for me, it always made me want to dig into a book and read more, to get more understanding and perspective about things that I probably didn't know about. And I just remember she would always really encourage us to not only read the content, but also think about the content of what we were reading in perspective of our own lives and what we would want to happen next. And she also had us read The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. And, to be a white woman, to be so enriched in literature and language, and then to also challenge a diverse classroom, it's just something I've always loved. And the fact that I got to run into her husband, and I told him, I was like, look, like, your wife is one of the reasons why I absolutely love to read. I used to love her class. I never missed a class, and like, pay homage to her. Like, please give that lady her flowers for me. So I'm really excited for this reading challenge and to get back into reading because it's just one of my absolute favorite things to do. Next, I want to pay off a credit card. That's it. I'm not going to tell you guys which one. I'm not going to tell you how many I have. I just want to pay one off, damn it. That's it. So that's going to be another goal for the year. Next goal is to buy new furniture for my apartment. So I did buy a bed earlier this month, which I was very excited about. The next things that I want to buy are, I want a new couch, a love seat, entertainment center, all for my living room, and then also a new dresser for my bedroom and a TV. So I have those things on my list that I really want to go ahead and get done so I can really live in this space and really enjoy it. I feel like I'm like 1 foot in, 1 foot out right now on my living situation. And no, my apartment is home. So I really want to make it home for me and George. The next thing is I want to finish another journaling prompt book this year because I had so much fun with the last one. And I'm doing a self-love workbook that I will be sure to link for you guys in the show notes. I'm super excited to get that done. And then last but not least, the number 5 or number 1, whatever you want to prioritize, a thing that I want to do for myself this year, because I did not get to go to one in 2023 or 2024. I am going to plan a trip to an NFL game for next season. I'm going. I have narrowed it down to 3 places that I want to go. I'm either going to go to Chicago and see the Bears. Yeah. I'm either going to do that one, or I'm going to go to Cincinnati and see the Bengals because I love Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They are, top tier. Love them. Or I might just do the damn thing and go to Lambeau and go up to Green Bay. I kind of feel like I need to save Lambeau, though, for my 40th. Regardless, I am going to an NFL game this season. And I am so excited because seeing a game in every stadium is on my bucket list. And so for me to go and do this, I am ridiculously excited for, and I can't wait. So, um, those are the things I want to do. The other thing that is honorable mention as I wrap up this episode of the podcast is we are going to go 30-day intervals of no dating. You guys, listen, go back to my episode, Black Girl Dating. You guys will be able to see and understand why dating is so treacherous for me living in Iowa. But I honestly think that one of the things that I really need to work on is refocusing my time and giving myself my time back. I have spent a lot of my time and energy focused on boys. And while it's fun, I need to stop letting boys take over everything and start like I said, giving myself my time and energy back. So I'm really going to be working on myself and healing from these abusive and toxic relationships that I like to get myself into, and just really kind of understanding really where the root of a lot of this is and how to not get into those situations again. That is something else. That's like an honorable mention, ongoing thing that I'm going to be working on for the next year and probably longer. So, as I conclude this episode and I think about 2024, yes, I have already said this year kicked my ass. This year beat the hell out of me. It literally, every time I felt like I was getting up, I got punched back down again. But when I think about everything that I accomplished this year, I can say this with my whole chest. The year 2024 owes me nothing. The year 2024 owes me nothing. The important thing about this year is that I made it. I am not the same woman that I was when I started the year, ending it. And what I'm really looking forward to in 2025 is continuing to tell my story and to live in my truth and to walk in my purpose. Those are the things that I am so excited for as I move forward. I'm excited for this podcast. I'm excited for my new job opportunity. I'm excited for just being able to put myself first. And that is something that will be the first time I've done in my adult life. I'm really excited for those things. And I thank each and every one of you listening right now for being on this journey with me, for encouraging me, for listening to the podcast, for following me on social media, engaging with my content. I am so thankful for all of you. So that's it. This is the last one for the year. Again, the podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and on YouTube. A new episode will be premiering every Monday, unless I say otherwise, at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Also, don't forget to go follow me over on TikTok, Instagram, and also on my YouTube channel. All of those links are below, including my Etsy shop where you can find merch. That is all done on pre-order basis, and I will be opening up the shop again in February for those pre-orders. So yeah, that is this. This is where I leave everyone. Again, signing off for the final episode of 2024. My name is Emili, host of the Black Girl Iowa podcast. Thank you for rocking with me, and we'll see you next year.